So hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Lindsay Humphreys, and I'm the Program Director for Junior Achievement of New Mexico. You are attending our Virtual Career Speaker Series program, and this program is designed for junior achievement students across New Mexico, and we highlight business professionals, entrepreneurs, and innovative thinkers from a variety of industries. Each featured speaker is going to share details about their education, their job, and their career journey. But before we get started, our usual virtual meeting etiquette reminders. So like I said, this video is recorded, and so that will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, and we will send that link after the video is edited. And then at this time, if you could please type your first and last name into the chat box. Then if you're a teacher and you have students on the call with you, just let us know how many students are attending with you, and if you're a parent, the same thing as well. During the speaker's presentation, please make sure all of your mics are muted, and if you have questions, feel free to type them into the chat box, and we can address those during the Q&A portion of the event. Today, we are so excited to welcome Captain Ryan Warner, Director of Psychological Health for Kirtland Air Force Base. Captain Warner, I'll mute myself, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here today. And hopefully I can just share my story and provide some motivation and inspiration for those listening today. So once again, my name is Ryan Warner. I'm a licensed psychologist, speaker, researcher, consultant, and I also serve as the Director of Psychological Health at Kirtland Air Force Base in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I think it'd be helpful if I start from the beginning. So let me tell my story. So I was born in the Chicagoland area in July 1991. And I remember my mom always told me that I was such a happy baby. I always smiled and laughed all the time, and I was ready to take on the world once I was born. However, I didn't really realize at such a young age that I would experience so many different challenges and barriers. However, I was able to find ways to figure out how can I persevere through those challenges to make it to where I'm at today, and speak in front of you all right now. So as a child growing up, when I was in elementary school and middle school, when I was about the age of a lot of you all on the line today, my teacher often told my mom that I experienced a lot of learning challenges and learning difficulties. When I was in school, I experienced some behavioral issues. I had a hard time staying on task and completing the different assignments that I was provided in school. And at every parent-teacher conference, my teacher told to my mom that I think something's going on with Ryan. I think he needs to be tested for special education. And growing up in a predominantly white area, and me being one of the few Black students enrolled at the school, my mom was very familiar with the racial disparities that occur in these type of settings. And as an educator herself, she actually chose not to enroll me in special education and instead provide me additional support so I can be able to persevere throughout these challenges. And I realized when I was little that I was constantly being picked on by my teachers. It seemed like they were expecting that I perform at a higher rate compared to my white peers. And being one of the only students of color, I experienced a lot of discrimination growing up. However, when my mom enrolled me in my special support program classes, I was able to figure out how can I improve my communication, enhance my ability to stay on task and mitigate some behavioral issues that I experienced. And I was able to get through that hard time in elementary and middle school. And then fast forward to high school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I knew that I was interested in sports, and that's all I really cared about. I played basketball, football, I ran track and cross country. And I knew I wasn't good enough to be a professional athlete, but I thought I can be in the health field somehow and be able to help people who are athletes and who want to improve their physical functioning. So I was like, hey, I want to go to college and maybe I can be a physical therapist, or maybe I can learn more about how the body moves and kinesiology. So I remember I talked to my counselor, and I was a junior year in my high school. And my counselor told me, he said, Ryan, you need to lower your standards. You're probably not going to be able to get into your dream school because your grades aren't good enough. You don't have a higher ACT score, an SAT score to get into these colleges that you want to get into. And even though that was really discouraging hearing that from another adult that was supposed to support me in my high school, I found ways to say, hey, even though that person thinks that of me, I don't have to think that of myself. And I had the confidence in my ability to reach out to different schools and figure out what did I need to get into those top tier universities. So with that, reaching out to support, I was able to apply to these huge, predominantly white, top tier universities in the nation. And at the top of my list was the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. And even though, once again, a lot of my teachers and the counselors said I probably wasn't going to get into that school, I still chose to give it a shot and shoot my shot. And luckily, I was able to get in. And I was so excited when I got into this university. And I remember I walked on the campus. It was my first semester. And looking around, it was a huge university, and I felt kind of out of place. There was 40,000 students enrolled at in this institution. And me as an African American male, I didn't really see a lot of people who looked like me. So I was able to find friends, and I remember me and my very close friend, he identified as an African American male as well. And we were walking down the street. And I remember this car drove up to us. And I thought they were going to ask us for directions or ask us where the nearest party is at or what's going on campus. And there were a group of four white males. And they screamed out to us, "You N-words, go back to where you came from." And I will never forget that. And right then and there, I realized that I wasn't probably going to be as welcome as I thought I would on this university's campus. However, I reached out to support. I was able to join different organizations. I was able to ask for assistance in my academic program, so I wouldn't fall behind. I was able to persevere through those challenges. And my senior year of undergrad, I realized that I wasn't ready to go into the career force right away. I wanted to continue to enhance my education so I can improve my knowledge, so I can learn more, so I can be smarter, so I can be able to learn new strategies and techniques in my field. And I chose to major in community health because, like I said before, I was really passionate about the healthcare field, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So one of my mentors told me, when my senior year of my college experience, he told me, "Hey Ryan, you should go on. You should continue your education because I feel like you have a really bright future." And I remember when he told me that, I felt really good inside because that was the first time someone outside of my family told me that I had a really bright future. So I took that and I said, "Hey, yeah, let me apply to get my master's degree." So I applied to another huge school, top tier university in the country. And I was able to get into that university and I was able to get a full scholarship. And throughout my time there, I learned more about the healthcare field. I learned more about it's called rehabilitation psychology, which is a focus on disabilities and helping individuals with disabilities be able to function a little bit better in life. And I was really passionate about that. I really enjoyed that. And part time throughout my schooling, throughout my undergrad experience, and throughout my past experiences, I was a physical therapist technician. So if anybody ever been to a physical therapist before, if you ever hurt your arm or hurt your leg, you go to a physical therapist and they help you perform a little bit better and they help you rehabilitate so you can be able to do different activities that you once could do in the past. So I was able to be a physical therapist technician, and a lot of people came up to me, a lot of my patients, and they said, "Hey Ryan, you're a really good listener. I know I'm here because I broke my arm and I'm trying to, exercise and get it stronger. But when I've told you about all the challenges that I experienced at work and at home, you listened to me and you didn't judge me. And I really appreciate that." And when my patients told me that during this part-time job position, I realized that I was a good listener. I realized I really like to help people. So ultimately, during my master's program, I said, "Hey, I want to continue my educational experience, and I actually want to be a psychologist because being a psychologist, you get to talk to people, you get to help people, you get to help them perform better in their life, and you get to help them learn about different strategies to just improve their relationships and improve their stress management." And that was really fulfilling when I was able to get that experience. So I said, "Hey, what do I need to do to be a psychologist?" And another mentor told me, well, if you want to be a psychologist, you have to get a PhD and you have to get a doctoral degree and you have to continue your education. And I said, wow, that's a lot right now. I never thought I was smart enough to get this far. I don't know if I can, get my PhD. That's a lot of work. And he said, hey, it doesn't matter how much work it is. It's going to pay off. And I have confidence in you and I believe in you. And when my mentor told me that, I started believing myself once again and said, hey, I can get through this and I can push through. Even though I experienced, this discrimination, and even though people in my past told me that I couldn't get this far. So once again, after my master's program, I then pursued my PhD at another top tier university in the country. And throughout my experience there, I really learned what it meant to be a psychologist. I really learned how beneficial it is being able to reach out to others, to get support. And a lot of my patients that I saw, they conveyed appreciation and they got better. And that helped me feel good. And after I, was involved in clinical care, I did research, and I was able to do different outreach opportunities and talk to other people. And I was able to start support programs, for people who look like me and people who identify as a marginalized group or a person of color. And on campus, I started a group. And this group was a support group to help individuals who look like me be able to get through their challenging times and the discrimination and that they may experience in their educational, experiences. And that helped me feel good as well, being involved in the community and doing outreach. So in my doctoral program, my girlfriend at the time, I went to her family reunion. And one of her family members talked to me and he said, oh, you're getting your PhD? I actually have my PhD and I'm a psychologist in the Army. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know you can be a psychologist in the Army. Tell me more about that. So he told me about all these phenomenal experiences that he received. And I was like, hey, I want to be in the psychology. I want to be a psychologist in the military too. So I remember I started to call people. I started to call all of the Army sites so I can learn more about how can I work for you? How can I get in the military? And accidentally, I applied to an Air Force. I called an Air Force site, an Air Force base. And this individual was a lieutenant colonel, a very high ranking. And she was like, Ryan, do you know you actually called the Air Force base, right? Not an Army base. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I almost hung up. And she said, don't worry about it. Let me get to know you a little bit better. So we talked for an entire hour on the phone. And she said, hey, you'll be a great candidate for a scholarship that we have in the Air Force. And after the scholarship, after your school, we'll pay for your school. We'll give you additional books and we'll give you additional support. And then after you graduate with your PhD, you can be a psychologist in the Air Force. So I had a week to apply for the scholarship. I ended up getting it. And fast forward, I graduated and here I am, Air Force psychologist. So with that, I know my time is wrapping up today, but throughout my experiences, when I was in elementary school, middle school, high school, I experienced a lot of learning challenges. I experienced discrimination. A lot of people told me that I couldn't get to where I'm at right now. But with mentorship, with reaching out to people who care about me and who support me, I was able to make it through those challenges and persevere. So I really want to encourage you all, no matter what challenges that you experience in your life, no matter how difficult it may be, no matter if you feel that you don't know what you exactly want to do in the future, I want to tell you that that's okay. And I want to tell you that just like me, you can make it to wherever you envision yourself. And going through your experiences right now, you may feel like, hey, I don't know what I want to do. But as you heard, my career trajectory is not a straight path. Oftentimes there's a lot of barriers and a lot of things and obstacles in your way. But I'm confident if I was able to do it, I know you can do it as well. So with that, reach out to support, believe in yourself, try to reach out to new opportunities, try to learn, try to educate yourself. And if you want to talk to me as well, I can be a great resource if you want to reach out to learn more about the military or just learn more about being in the healthcare field or being a psychologist. So with that, I want to open it up to questions, but that's my story, and hopefully it inspires and motivates those listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Captain Warner. That was so inspiring. So we're going to open it up to Q&A. And so I can start us off with a question that came from the chat or from our registration. And we have, what goals or sacrifices did you make in order to become a captain?
Yes, that's a great question. So when I think about that, I don't think there's specific sacrifices to be a captain in general, but just, broadly being in the military, there are some sacrifices. So, to get where I'm at right now, I had to go through a lot of education, as you all heard. I had to move a lot, go to a lot of different universities. And then now, being in my current role, there are some sacrifices that maybe my family and I experience, so moving constantly, maybe not having 100% say of where you may live at. And then, so with me, I'm married right now, and my spouse, when we move, she has to get a new job, and she has to meet new friends, and I have to meet new friends as well. So there are some challenges when it comes to that, but in general, the benefits outweigh the sacrifices and the challenges, and that's just my personal experience.
Thank you. A question from the chat. What was the funniest thing you ever did? And first off, sorry, 1 second. Put Miss Garcia, I'm sorry that your kiddos can't hear. In the bottom right-hand corner, you might have to enable your speaker.
We fixed it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, Captain Warner. Question from the chat. What was the funniest thing what was the funnest thing you've done?
Funnest thing I've done since being in the military. So in my residency, year and a half, 2 years ago, I was in Washington, D.C. area. And it was really cool because I got to support the presidential mission. So I got to see Air Force One. I got to go in the White House. I got to go to the Pentagon. And that was so cool for me to do. And I also got to work at a headquarters in which I was able to shape policy. And that was really cool as well, being able to write policy and different procedures in place within the military. So that was the coolest thing I've done thus far.
Excellent, thank you. A question from Miss Garcia. What has been the most difficult or challenging thing you have faced during this pandemic?
Great question. So me, as I mentioned in my story, I'm originally from the Chicagoland area, and not being near my family that's been really hard. And this is the longest I've ever went without seeing my family face to face. It's been over a year actually. So yeah, that's been the most challenging piece. But luckily, my mom is actually coming in the next week or so, because I'm expecting my first child within the next week. So she's coming. She's to be able to see my son. So it'll be really nice to see my family. But that's definitely been a challenge throughout this pandemic.
Wow, congratulations. That's super exciting.
Thank you.
Question from the registration. What is the meaning of the CRC behind your title?
Yes, great question. So CRC stands for Certified Rehabilitation Counselor. And as I mentioned in my master's program, I received my master's degree in rehabilitation psychology. So what that is, it's a specialty of psychology that helps individuals with disabilities be able to perform higher and enhance their optimal performance within their life. Okay, so with a CRC is a certified rehabilitation counselor, and that person is specialized with working with individuals with disabilities and helping them obtain competitive employment, be able to get a job and function very highly at their job, and also just improve their overall well-being and help them cope better with their disability. So that's what that certification entails. Great question.
Another question from the registration. What is the best advice you have ever received?
Yes. So reflecting on that question, I think the best advice I've ever received has been from my mom. And I really look up to her because she was able to, help support me as well as my other family, but she's always been there for me. And I think the best advice she told me, she said, Ryan, you are more capable than you know. You are more capable than you know. And that always sticks with me because sometimes, we experience like imposter syndrome, right? We feel that, we may not be smart enough, we may not be good enough at things that we do. But being able to know that, hey, you are more capable than you know, and being able to recite that to myself over and over again, has helped me improve my confidence and also get through different challenges. So I encourage you all to say that to yourself. Say that to yourself when you start to doubt yourself, when you start to feel that you can't do something. You are more capable than you know.
Thank you so much. Question from the chat. Outside of your schooling/training, what outside services, supports for adults with special needs are there in the military?
So that's a great question. So in the military, there are certain standards that we have to uphold, so individuals can be, adequately deployed, et cetera. When it comes to like disability, that's a, I guess, challenging question for active duty. It depends on the circumstance, but for their family members, there are special support programs for civilians who work for the military as well. For contractors, there's different supports that we provide. For instance, like the Employee Assistance Program is a resource for civilians who work for the military, and there are different resources that help support them so that they can be able to adequately perform their job duties. So, yeah, great question though.
Excellent. I'd like to give anybody a chance to unmute if they would like to and ask a question, or we can continue with questions from the registration. Okay, so the next question is, and I think you may have touched on this a little bit, but what has been your biggest influence since high school all the way up till now?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would go back to my mom. I think she's been my biggest influence. She, as a single parent, she was able to, help, raise me and my brother. And my dad also raised me as well, but she's been able to, help me get through different challenges, in my life, and also support my brother as well. And being able to, she worked multiple jobs, in her life, and she still currently works to this day, even though she's retired. And her work ethic really motivates me, for me to also have a strong work ethic, and for me to be able to persevere throughout my obstacles that I faced as well. So definitely, I would say my mom, has been my biggest hero.
Excellent. Another question from the registration. So have you ever had an opportunity where your job was too hard or that you wanted to quit?
Great question. So there are always days, in everybody's life, I feel that you feel like the stress is, starting to become overwhelming. However, in my job, I'm really passionate about what I do. I really enjoy, doing outreach and speaking to you all today, and I do this a lot as well, and going out to the community and providing them different stress management strategies, and, talking to them, and also on a one-on-one setting, be able to talk to patients and helping them get through their different circumstances. So that's really rewarding, but yes, it can be challenging at times. Sometimes there are a lot of tasks to complete at a very short deadline. Sometimes, there's so many emails that come in, I feel overwhelmed, right? And I have to respond to them. There's a lot of different stressors, but I don't think there's been a time in which I've wanted to quit. I think it just helped me, be stronger and motivated me to work harder so I can accomplish those tasks and those goals at hand. So great question though.
Excellent. Can you please describe your day-to-day job?
Yes. So as a director of psychological health, my day-to-day job varies. However, typically what happens is on a weekly basis, I see individual patients. So patients who come into me, they may have depression or anxiety, or just want to be able to improve their functioning and figure out how can they thrive throughout their life. They may come and see me and I give them different strategies and different techniques, that has been shown to be helpful, and work with them one-on-one. I also do group therapy as well. So in a virtual setting, just like this, or face-to-face, individuals will come to me and we'll work on like anger management. We'll work on how to improve our sleep. We'll work on stress management, and ultimately providing them tools as well helps them improve their overall well-being. And also I do outreach. So as I mentioned before, I get it out into the community. I talk to, students. I talk to security forces members who are like the police of the military. And I go out to their units and give them different strategies so they can also, perform at a very high rate as well, high level. So that's typically how my day-to-day looks. It's always different, and that's what keeps it exciting and keeps me on my on my toes as well.
Excellent. I'm going to give one more chance to anybody who would like to unmute and ask a question, or we will wrap up to be respectful of everyone's time.
I had one question. I posted it in the chat, and I was just wondering, do you do these kind of outreach type seminars district-wide, or this would be great. At the beginning of the year, teachers always go to these boring PLCs that have nothing to do with our special needs units. But I see, like, for behavior units, things that hits home, especially under this pandemic, dealing with emotional issues and social issues. This is something I think that would pique the interest of our students, let alone give support to parents. Do we do anything like that for, like, schools, districts?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, outside of my military role, I have my own consulting company, and I do a lot of consulting work as well within the community as well as nationwide. So I put on a lot of stress management classes. I talk to individuals of all different ages and backgrounds. So yeah, if you're interested in that, you can email me. I can provide you some more information.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Captain Warner, and thank you so much to the teachers and the students on the call. I hope you all enjoyed today's program, but before we log off, we're just going to do a couple of announcements. So following this presentation, you will be asked to complete a post-program mindset survey. By completing the survey, you'll be entered into a drawing to win a Dion's gift card. And so a huge thank you to Dion's, who has graciously partnered with Junior Achievement to provide our lucky survey responders gift cards to these events. And teachers, if you are facilitating this for students on the call, just make sure that you send that link to them so they can be entered into the drawing. Lastly, next week, we welcome Bajat Sharif, the COO and brand leader for Twisters Burgers and Burritos. So keep an eye out for those registration links, and keep an eye out in your emails for that. Thank you so much, Captain Warner, and thank you to everyone on the call. And we'll see you all next week.
Thanks so much.